Hello, I'm Dr. Scott Wadier.
And I'm Tommy Welling, and you're listening to the Fasting for Life podcast.
This podcast is about using fasting as a tool to regain your health, achieve ultimate wellness, and live the life you truly deserve.
Each episode is a short conversation on a single topic with immediate actionable steps. We cover everything from fat loss and health and wellness to the science of lifestyle design.
We started Fasting for Life because of how fasting has transformed our lives, and we hope to share the tools that we have learned along the way. Hey everyone, welcome to the Fasting for Life podcast. My name is Dr. Scott Wadier, and I'm here as always with my good friend and colleague, Tommy Welling. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Hey, Scott, how are you?
Doing fantastic, my friend. Excited for today's conversation. We are going to talk a little bit about enhanced muscle activity during uninterrupted sitting, improves glycemic control in overweight and obese men. Don't worry, women, we've got some information for you too. We're going to talk about blood sugar control, insulin resistance, adopting a fasting lifestyle, and most importantly, how we are going to get the best results possible. So welcome in to the podcast. If you are new and you are a first-time listener, thank you so much for giving Tommy and I a chance to be a part of your fasting lifestyle. So if you're an OG, an old guard, original gangster, if you've been with us for a while, we appreciate you continuing to listen in and continuing to just be a part of our fasting lifestyle transformation. So we had a shout out, Tommy, Good for Beginners on July 14th from AIHPCFL. Just subscribed and listening from the beginning. So far, I believe this is good information for someone just starting. I have questions, but I expect they'll be answered in the later episodes. Podcasting at its best. So,
thank you. All right.
Man, if you're new or old, not in age, but in our podcasting sphere, please give us a 5-star review. Those are our favorite kind. We do feel that it is deserved after 240 episodes of what we believe is some of the best fasting content out there. That tells the podcast world that we're delivering value each and every week. And ultimately here at Fasting for Life, if you go back and listen to our first episode, you're going to hear why we do what we do, why we have our coaching programs, why we have our fasting challenges, why we have our resources and our quizzes and our fasting types and all the things that we've created over the last few years while being dads and business owners and husbands and et cetera. We do it because it transformed our life. So shout out to AIHPCFL.
And for everybody else who left a review, because now we're at 1,000. It took us, took us a few years, but that's really cool. So thank you guys for dropping the love and taking a few minutes out of your day to do that. We really, really appreciate it.
Man, so nearly 3.5 million downloads and 1,000 reviews, 4.8 on 5-star. Yeah, that's the self-aggrandizing portion of today's episode. I really want to get into the nitty-gritty of what we're going to talk about today, and it was really cool. If we're looking big picture, Tommy, at some of the things that we encounter in a lifestyle change or a lifestyle transformation, anytime you are exiting the dieting roller coaster and you're going to be adopting a fasting lifestyle or doing some form of habit change or transformation, we tend to overestimate what we can do in the short term and underestimate what we can do in the long term. So we want the quick fix. We want the scale to move immediately. We want to feel better now. We want disease gone. We want to come off our medications overnight. We want to have the motivation and the lightning strike of, I am now a new person and I'm going to go do this thing. The reality is 4 years later, I'm still working on stuff, right? There's still old diet mentality, calories in, calories out, eat less, move more, working for my next meal. Should I have the dessert, food decisions that I have every single day? There's still those things that we work on. And one of the biggest things that we hear in terms of a roadblock for people starting, that's why I wanted to highlight the review that just came in, because they said good for beginners. But it's also the same for the folks that are been doing it for a while, or the ones that have kept the weight off, or reversed the diabetes, or come off the medication, is that it's a constant learning. But in the beginning, we hear this let's just call it what it is, excuse of I don't know what to do, or I don't have the willpower, or I don't have the time. I don't have the time to go and do this big lifestyle overhaul, right? And I agree, because that's a terrible place to start. If you're go cold turkey on everything, clear out the pantry, work out 7 days a week, set these big lofty goals, a lot of the times you're going to lose that momentum or motivation pretty quick. And that's evident in the research and evident in just, New Year's resolutions thing that people don't even do anymore because they know, you can do anything for 30 days, but what's the sustainable long-term strategy? So this conversation today is going to be really cool because it's one of those big rocks that we see that gets in the way of wanting to start some form of shift in either lifestyle or mindset.
Yeah, a lot of times we think about it as very goal oriented, very finish line oriented, but what you can find, and you can get this perspective from anybody who's taken a longer term view on anything, or made an overhaul, or reversed a disease state, or dropped a lot of weight, or just changed any aspect of their life that they wanted to, but in a big way, something that took multiple months or years and some planning, and it was a big, hairy, audacious goal, but it was worth it. They didn't get there usually because they just kept laser focus on just the finish line. There was a lot of small steps that went before they got to that quote unquote finish line. But here's the real kicker, is that maintenance of those changes requires not looking at it so much as a finish line, but as a continued journey as well, and a continued improvement. So generally, if you're talking to somebody who's made big changes, they won't tell you, yeah, I'm done with it and now I'm just cruising along on autopilot. They'll say, yeah, it's a continued evolution. Just like people in a professional practice, they call it a practice. It's not, yeah, I got everything I need, and then now I just do the thing. No, there's continuous learning and effort and energy and focus that's put into that. It's a continual journey. And so even just that first mindset shift, I feel like, is an important one, because I was always so goal oriented, especially with regard to my health and weight loss. And it never really served me, except to make small progress and then get quickly frustrated. So taking the long-term view, I think, is an important first step too.
This is always the question. If you Google what's the best way to lose 20 pounds, you're going to come up with everything you can possibly imagine, right? Most people come to fasting like I did. I was looking for answers, looking for solutions. I'd tried a lot of the other stuff, doing it for years. Calories in, calories out, eat less, move more. Hired nutritionist, was creating weight loss for other folks, but I was missing that insulin resistance piece, that hormonal metabolic piece, as well as the habit lifestyle component, which is I could do anything for a short term, get a result, but then revert back to the old patterns that I had, that have been ingrained at different periods of my life, from sports to growing up to how we were raised around food, etc. So the question we get often is, what's the best fasting schedule to follow? What should I break my fast with? Should I exercise? What's the best exercise? And in today's world of unlimited information, right? Especially in the alternative health and fitness space, even just in the podcast world. I mean, you can go listen to some of the big players, and they have dissenting agreements or dissenting arguments, and a lot of agreement, but also some things that they just, are on opposite sides of the aisle on. And ultimately, the reality is the long term solution. You need the repetitions, and you need to figure it out. So we want to focus today on a fasting lifestyle in that blood sugar component, right? So if you're coming to fasting, ultimately you're coming here to, most people come here to lose weight, right? The majority of folks want to use fasting as a strategy, to get the scale moving, to lose the poundage for once and for all, to stop the regain, yeah, or keep it where it is, or stop the regain train, right? All the fun little things that we talk through, in our communities, in our coaching, and ultimately on the podcast are as well. But the reality is, we have a different world that we live in now, and you've probably all heard this, that sitting is the new smoking. Sedentary lifestyle. We're sitting ourselves to death. right? You've heard these things, right? In recent years, this is a new concept, right? So where, to be honest, sitting isn't as bad as smoking, but it can increase health risks, especially with those in the lowest activity levels. So when you think I want to lose weight, you think eat less, move more. You think give me my diet strategy, give me what I should eat, give me my meal plan, give me my calories, give me my macros, and give me my workout plan.
Yeah, and I'm going to need to move more in order to lose weight also is usually
Yeah.
a prerequisite thought too.
Yeah, right. And to move more, yes, I agree. You should be moving more. You should be getting your steps in. You should be, using movement as a part of your long term health strategy. Right. We can talk about cardiovascular, muscle building, walking, whatever it is. There's benefits to all of it. So when we look at this idea of how in today's busy ass world that we live in, let's just be honest, we're more distracted, more connected, more stressed, underslept, blue lighted to death than ever, right? And we now have this predisposition to just sit more than ever because of technology, right? I mean, I used to be in full time clinical practice, seeing hundreds of patients a week. I was on my feet all day. Now I sit behind a couple of monitors with some fancy lights and a microphone. And I now work remotely on Zoom, coaching clients, coaching other providers, functional medicine space, practice management. Like I literally sit all the time. So movement has to be a key component to your lifestyle change, especially now more than ever. So we have our fasting schedules. You want it? Go get our recommended ramp up on why we recommend certain fast cycling schedules. It's in the blueprint to fasting for fat loss. It's in the show notes. It's free. Click the link. We'll zoom it over to your inbox. It's there, right? If you're looking for more of a boot camp style experience, right? Join one of our fasting challenges. We'll take you through all of the stuff that we have lived and tried and failed and accelerate your results and standing on the shoulders of giants, just like we have in the fasting space, the Jason Fungs, et cetera, et al. That we have now taken their information and run with it and transformed our life, right? So then we've got that. So we'll go over, what's fat. Then we talk about food. So we've got, we talk multiple podcasts where we talk about how to break your fast. What type of foods do you like to eat? Now, don't, say I'm never going to look at a piece of bread or a piece of cake ever again, and the fear of missing out, right? We get away from that. So this last piece is what's the movement piece? Like, what's the biggest bang for your buck in adopting a lifestyle that creates sustainability? And it's movement. And that's why we want to talk about this study that's specifically related to what we teach with the fasting lifestyle in regards to blood sugar. So insulin resistance, hormone imbalances, propensity for foods, the obesogenic food environment, highly ultra processed, all that stuff that we've talked about ultimately raises blood sugar. So we're going to talk about this concept we've talked about in the past of area under the curve. And the study is really cool because they looked at enhanced muscle activity during interrupted sitting, which improves glycemic control in overweight and obese men. And the changes were really cool for a really small activation energy in terms of movement, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the cool thing, because when we talk about sustainability of something that's going to move the needle, we really want to look at what's a really low bar that I could start with. Because the problem with things like New Year's resolutions and things like that you mentioned earlier is that oftentimes we're looking at them as very finish line, results based, and that's not all bad. But at the same time, if we try to overhaul everything and these big changes, it can be very easy to switch, because we start with the off switch right now. And then we go, okay, I need some big change. So let me flip the switch on. Okay, yes, I'm going to wake up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. every morning. I'm going to dedicate maybe 30, 45, 60 minutes. And, I'm going to change things around.
The 5 day a week, 5 a.m. club that meets in the parking lot, right?
Yeah. Heck yeah. And hey, these can be really, really
Yeah.
cool and good. And there can be big benefits from them too. But here's the thing. We went from off, and that was a big on switch. So naturally in our neurological wiring, we can then revert back to the off switch relatively quickly without finding a happy medium, something that we can sustain, or some way to apply the big benefits from what we just tried to implement there, and then keep them for a long time rather than just the short term. And so that's where we want to be. And so when we start saying, okay, why does it matter? Well, movement matters because when we look at the insulin resistance data, we can see that less movement means more insulin resistance. They're correlated. They're correlated with worse cardiometabolic outcomes, with worse liver health. And
Right. So like that goes back to is sitting the new smoking, right? Does it
sure,
result
yeah,
in these, all
it's
all
part of
cause
it.
mortality, heart disease, diabetes? And the reality is, yes, there's a relationship there, 100%.
For sure. Because if you hold everything else stable and steady, more sedentary lifestyle equals worse or faster progression of all of these things. It's not to say that sitting is the cause, for sure. It's just that it exacerbates the whole cycle of events here. And so how do we throw a wrench in it? What's the least amount of activation energy that we need to throw a wrench into that cycle? Well, that's where this study was really cool, and why it caught our eye as far as how can we optimize our time. Because if I think sedentary lifestyle, my next thought is, yeah, but what am I going to do about it? I can't just rearrange, I'm not just going to jump off of Zoom. I'm not going to jump off of, whatever it is that in our connected technological world, I can't just rearrange it and just all of a sudden be, physically active all day long.
Well, here's the thing is you can, right? You could do it because there are other people around you, right? That get up and do, there's a guy out there that I used to follow for a while that has a 2.5 hour morning routine with him and his wife. I'm like, yeah, but you already have $150 million portfolio. So like,
Yeah.
cool.
That's your retirement.
Yeah. Right. So I got, like comparing, highlight reels, right? I don't want to get into comparison trap, right? Cause that'll get you nowhere. But I'm over here going, I got woken up twice last night by my 5-year-old and my 2-year-old. Like, what the hell? Like, yeah, I can do that for a little bit of time, but is that a long-term? Yeah, I know they're going to get older, but should I wait?
Exactly. Should I wait? I love that one too, because it's like, I don't have this isn't the right season for me to lose the weight or to revamp my lifestyle, but when I'll be happy or I'll make the change when, and that's an easy trap to fall into too.
Yeah, there's a great guy out there that I follow, Lane Norton, and he's competing in weightlifting, professional weightlifting. He's been doing it for years, and he's on the comeback trail. And he was talking about, he's like, you guys see me go in there and do these 3-hour long workouts and burn 2,200 calories, and because he's literally competing to be the best of the best and bring home more world records in his age group, right? Which he's on path to do that again. But he's like, these last 3 weeks have sucked. He's like, I'm tired. I don't want to do it. But I've been doing it for so long that I don't even have to think about it anymore. So we, as mere mortals, sit there and go, yeah, I got to lose 50 pounds. Okay. How am I going to do that? Well, the Biggest Loser TV show pops in your head and you go, oh, that looks really terrible. Do I really want to do that? Right. So how do we get the biggest bang for your buck? Well, you stay consistent with your fasting. That lowers blood sugar. If we're talking about blood sugar being and insulin being the gatekeeper to burning fat, right, and getting you off the dieting roller coaster and decreasing your cravings and increasing your consistency and your control around food, the movement piece needs to be part of your long-term strategy. So this study is really cool. It was 4 groups, right? So this was, and here's the thing, increased risk of metabolic disease, particularly diabetes, which right now is increasing at exponential rates. It's frightening. Among overweight and obese individuals who lead sedentary lifestyle. So it emphasizes the need for effective interventions to counteract the negative effects of sitting. There's lots of studies, we've talked about these, that have shown that interrupting sitting with standing or light physical activity can enhance glucose metabolism in adults that already have diabetes. So the cool thing about this study was, well, hey, let's focus on the people that are likely to get diabetes. And then let's explore the different interruption strategies. So there were 4 groups. This was healthy men 18 to 35, overweight or obese BMI criteria. I love that they were looking at equating caloric intake, and they were looking at perceived exertion, energy expenditure, excuse me, and output based on VO2 max, which is something that we've talked about a lot. VO2 max, an incredibly powerful indicator of all-cause mortality. Participants refrained from exercise, alcohol, and caffeine for a couple days prior. And here's the 4 different groups, right? So the sit group was sitting for 8.5 hours during the day. Okay. The one group was prolonged sitting interrupted by a continuous walking break of 30 minutes. That's the one group.
Okay. One,
right?
Yeah. One interval of walking.
Correct. The walk group was 10 intervals of 3 minutes of walking every 45 minutes. The squat group was the same 8.5 hours of sitting, but they did 10 bouts of 3 minutes of squatting.
Like air squats, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. No equipment needed.
No equipment needed. Equated the output, right, based on VO2 max, which is really cool. They're almost all across the board, pretty much in the same ballpark. And the results were, I mean, I thought we were going to see some pretty cool results. And we won't go into the enhancing the local muscle activation intensity in the quads or the glutes, which seem to be way more important than the hamstrings for better glycemic control. But the changes that we saw in the groups in terms of blood sugar between the sit group and the walk and squat group. So the walk and squat group ended up being the exact same. A decrease in area under the curve. So imagine you draw a bell curve or a sine wave, or let's say a rainbow. And instead of coloring in the rainbow, you color in the space underneath the curve. That's what we're talking about, area under the curve, right?
How long
Yeah.
and how high are your blood sugar elevated for? And this is this is an important indicator of metabolic flexibility and metabolic health, because we want to be able to bring those peaks down and compress the amount of time that they're elevated, right?
Correct. Blood sugar being elevated, you wake up, cortisol, dump some blood sugar, then you may have a higher morning reading or dawn phenomenon, right? Then you have some coffee on an empty stomach. That might also spike your blood sugar. Then you got a little snacky snack or a little brekkie. And then you got a little get to the office and there's some stuff there. So you're just grazing. Then you got lunch. Then you got the pre-post lunch dip. So you got a little caffeine there. Then you got a little snack. Then you got a little pre-dinner snack on the way home. Then you got dinner. Then you got post-dinner snack, staying up too late. So you might have blood sugar elevated. I'm speaking from experience. You may have blood sugar elevated, right? The whole stoke your metabolism thing. You may have blood sugar elevated for a long period of time. So we all know that the research shows that a 30-minute walk post-prandial, post-meal can give you some really cool blood sugar decrease. But what was really great in this study was the sedentary group, the sit group, compared to the walk and squat group, showed a 22.5% decrease in area under the curve. Tommy, that's going to translate to almost a 40-point decrease in your blood sugar.
Yeah, that one was surprising. If you would have asked me which group did I think would get the best results, I thought that the 3-minute squat group would have had the best results. I would have thought they would have been a little bit more impactful than the 3-minute walking group. So it was cool to see that those were basically the same effect on blood sugar. So that was cool to see, because it's obviously it can be easier to get out for a 3-minute walk than it can be to do 3 minutes of air squats, especially if you have a lot of weight to lose, or if you haven't done anything really physical in a while, then work your way up to it. And that's a great place to be. But it was cool to see that we had the same effect with the walking group. But to say what would have been the change in that peak blood sugar spike, I would have probably guessed like maybe in the 15 to 20 point range. But to say that we're seeing effects of 40 points and higher, that's incredible, because we're not going through a long, strenuous workout here, and
3 minutes.
and we're not doing full body, kettlebell swings and farmers carries and other
deadlifts, and
we're not activating all the muscles in the body here. We're just doing some simple walking,
quads and glutes,
or some squats. And so that's pretty amazing, because that's a big part of the problem with the state of our cardiometabolic health today. And the fact that, where you started the conversation with, sedentary lifestyle is the new smoking. The big piece of that is blood sugar getting too high and remaining there for too long, which then gets chased behind as more and more insulin spikes and an insulin pump from the pancreas that is then causing these cardiometabolic problems. And so when we can squash the spike and we can compress the timetable of it, we can do things differently, physiologically speaking. This is incredible right here.
This is all speaking to glucose metabolism, right? So ever heard anybody say, oh, I can't eat potatoes. Oh, I can't look at that. My blood sugar goes crazy, right? Well, I mean, that's a long-term downstream effect. That's putting the bumper, in the water, right? The metal in the water, and walking away and coming back 30 years later being like, man, it's really rusted, right? Like, well, yeah, because it's been there for a long time. So when we look at the sit group, it was the net area under the curve was about 10.2 millimoles. And then it went all the way down to 7.9, right? In the walk and the squat group. So that's that 22.5% decrease. And then the one group, which is what I've been doing recently, I've been doing this for a long time, and we've been proponents of this, is, that went from 10.2 millimoles area under the curve to 9.2. So that's a 9.8 or 10% decrease, which is great. But I mean, I could be getting 2 times that.
Yeah, or more.
Or more. So I said, because I walk every day, most days, between 30 and 45 minutes. That's just a way that I know I'm going to at least get a couple of miles in, 3,000 or 4,000 steps. I've got 3 dogs, 3 kids. I'll be chasing them around. I'm probably going to get another few thousand, right? So I'll get to my 7-8 number, which has really been shown to be the sweet spot. But I've been doing this post meal walk, getting this, 8, so 1 millimole difference, right? So going from 10.2 to 9.2, that's about 18 points difference in grams per deciliter in blood sugar, right? So that's great, but I want more. So if I said to my wife, the other day, I was like, I want to get a walking pad. And she's like, why? And I'm like, because I've got calls all day, but like, I don't want to go out. It's 100 degrees out. I like to go do my one hot walk, either in the morning or like midday when the sun's out, get some vitamin D, take the shirt off, sweat, come back, cold plunge, get back on. But that's 45 minutes to an hour. And some of you are going, well, yeah, the guy you just told me he's training for nationals, he's working out 3 hours a day. I'm like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, be like him, right?
So yes, you can get this, but the sustainable way to get to where he's at is to build on the foundation of small, low activation energy habit change. I hated walking for a while. It used to be like the most mind-numbing thing to me. Ask my wife. She's like, I would love to go on a walk. I'm like, no. Like, I want to go work out or not. And then what would that do? Well, I don't have the time. I don't have the, hour to get to CrossFit, the 30-minute warm up, the 30-minute cool down, that, like there's all these rate limiting steps, mindsets that can come in with this weight loss dieting mentality. So the fact that like I could literally have a walking pad to my left, have a coaching call, hop off in the 5-minute buffer that I have with the next call, get a 3-minute walk in, and I've just 2x'd the decrease in the area under the curve for that day.
Amazing. How could you not sustain that?
That's why I love this.
Yeah, how could you not sustain that? That's the thing. Because I used to have these conversations with myself, talking myself out of things like this that would have been small changes. They didn't feel like big enough, but I didn't have the data to kind of back up these kind of things. You hear about, this small little optimizer here or there, and it's like, no, that can't be enough to really move the needle. But no, we're talking about big needle moving stuff here. Like if you're wearing a continuous glucose monitor or you're measuring blood sugar to see those spikes come down and this is before you make any changes to your fasting timer or your consistency with the application of your fasting or on your plate. you didn't have to make any changes there. And let's not even talk about sleep or stress, which are also going to affect your blood sugar as well. Where this is just one lever, but it's a big one.
Yes. So let's go back. Let's just go big picture for a second. So insulin resistance, blood sugar management, right? Do you need to wear a CGM 24/7, right? If you're not diabetic? No. But should you know what your blood sugar is doing? Yeah. Right. At some point.
The visuals can help.
Yeah. Do you need to get a DEXA scan every 3 months to check your progress in your body composition? No. But should you check in with it periodically to see where you're at and making change? Yeah. So if you were to not make any changes, if you were just to stick consistent with your fasting schedule or stay consistent where you're at with your food choices and add in this simple low activation energy habit of walking or um, squatting, right? You're going to get a 40-point decrease on average over most days that you do it over the course of the year. That's going to add up.
Yeah, it really will. You can do those.
It's also going to
squats.
help with your cravings and your food decisions because you're going to be balancing your
True.
blood sugar,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, never mind sleep and stress and all these things we talk about, right? Of like the lifestyle adaptation, how to make fasting easier, get quality sleep, how to make fasting easier, manage your stress, how to lose weight, do all of those things we just said, right? Like it's all part of the equation. So removing this, I got to do this big, hairy, audacious lifestyle overhaul. I got to work out so hard to get results. Now, yes, of course, there's benefit to doing some of those things, but for long-term consistency, this we believe should be part of your plan.
Yeah, I was going to say during the summertime or before getting that walking pad, you could add in the squats, the intervals of squats to your longer walk. That could be your way to optimize this.
Or in the days I can't do the longer walk because we have a hurricane.
Yeah, right.
Right? What can I do? Or we have no power. I can literally do this instead. Or you're on vacation and you're traveling. You don't have the time to do it. You're on airplanes all day. Guess what? You can be the crazy guy or the crazy person doing squats in the corner of the what's that thing called? The gate.
Yeah.
Right? Or you can just go for a walk until your gate's called or until your boarding group's called, right? Like you can adapt this anyway. So it's like, well, I guess I don't really have an excuse anymore, right?
Yeah, and that's a good thing. You want to take away all of the ways that your conscious, cognitive powerhouse can talk you out of, these small optimizers that are going to move the needle. You could even do like a wall sit, kind of right. Like a standing air squat. You don't even have to be going up and down with full squats like that. Still get the benefit.
Yep, 100%. I remember when I was rehabbing an old injury, an old shoulder injury. And I was going through this process, and it was really hard. And I wasn't doing any strength at that point. It was just mobility and stretching. And it'd be like, all right, do a blah, blah, blah stretch for 2 minutes. And I'm like, 2 minutes? Like I'm doing a biceps tendon stretch for 2 minutes. I'm like, my hands go numb. And I'm like, but I'm not really doing anything, right? Like I thought it was like insignificant. And then I realized after doing it for a few months that like, wow, a couple of months later, it's a completely different experience. So yeah, you don't have to be the crazy guy trying to do as many air squats as you can in 3 minutes, but just activate the quads, activate the glutes, and you're going to have this incredible glucose lowering area under the curve effect that legitimately should remove, and I'm speaking to the old me here, any excuse to not go to the gym or not do the thing that you should be doing when it comes to exercise.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to take one of these things and then stack it on top of some of the other things I'm doing for my fasting lifestyle as well. So again, it doesn't feel like an on-off switch when I'm pairing it up with other small changes too. Which could be food choices, fasting times to also accelerate the area under the curve lowering for blood sugar, for insulin. So if you start taking these kind of results, then the next question I always want to ask is what else could I do? What other small change could I maybe implement too? And immediately I start thinking about those things too, as far as blood sugar and insulin.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we adopt a fasting lifestyle, right, we're gonna focus on fasting and focus on the timer, but then we really need to talk about long-term health and longevity. We need to get moving. What's the easiest way to do it? Well, put in something that has the lowest activation energy. Just like if you're trying to do You've never fasted before and you're like, I'm just going to not eat till tomorrow. Okay, some of us can pull that off. Some can't. You need to ramp your way up into it, right? So sitting is indeed not the new smoking, but it is a huge contributor in this world that we live in with the obesogenic food environment, the ultra highly processed foods, the convenience, right? That's everywhere around us. And the fact that we are more sedentary than ever before, more stressed out, more connected, more underslept. We need to look at these factors as being part of our long-term strategy. So if you want more support, you can head to the show notes, the Blueprint of Fasting for Fat Loss. That'll give you some fasting times and some context to what it is that we do. You can grab the sleep guide, right? You can go to our thefastingforlife.com. We got a bunch of resources there, an insulin assessment. You can join the Facebook community, right, where we talk about fasting 24/7. You can get involved in, if you want the boot camp style, sign up for the next challenge that's coming up. But ultimately, none of us out there, unless you've had a recent surgery, right, and you are not able to actually physically do the thing, anyone and everyone can do what this article has proven, which is regulate your blood sugar better, ultimately giving your body the best chance to lose weight, the quickest, most efficient way possible, without having to fear the old dieting, eat less, move more mindset. So Tommy, as we wrap up today's conversation, happy fasting to all of you out there. Appreciate the conversation as always, sir, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Bye. So, you've heard today's episode, and you may be wondering, where do I start? Head on over to thefastingforlife.com and sign up for our newsletter, where you'll receive fasting tips and strategies to maximize results and fit fasting into your day-to-day life.
While you're there, download your free Fast Start guide to get started today. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and we'll be back next week with another episode of Fasting for Life.